in mystery.
I think everybody did much good.
But you're back. If one were to read the current literature, be it esoteric, metaphysical, or New Age, I'm quite certain that you would run across many references to consciousness. Very much misunderstood concept by many people, many authors, many so-called experts. And then you would run across something called the states of consciousness. And I moved tonight to deal with the states of consciousness because if you read further, you would also see that people talk that this world is an illusion. It's become quite the cliche for us to talk about. It's all an illusion. But nobody, or very few tell us it is an illusion of what? It must be an illusion of something. And so, if you keep reading, you'll see references in many of the disciplines, in the East and the West, something called the 3 states of consciousness. Some people call it the 4 states of consciousness. I'm going to focus on the 3, and that'll become clear in a little bit. When you say that this world is an illusion, what we're saying is that in the first state of consciousness, we would be talking about the waking state. You're awake. I mean, you're not sleeping. I haven't put you to sleep yet, of course it's early, but you're hopefully you're awake. When you drive home tonight, I hope you're awake. And when you are awake, this world, this third-dimensional material physical world, appears to be real. I mean, let's face it, this is here, and this is here, and I'm here, and you're there, and I can see you, and so it appears to be real. Well, there's a problem because of the word appearance. It appears. Because when you go to sleep, and I'm quite certain, unless you have a monkey mind tonight, you will go to sleep, and when you go to sleep, then you begin to dream. And people ask me all the time, say, Don, are dreams real? And I say, yes, they're as real as this. Except the problem is, this isn't real. That's an illusion too. So what do I mean by that? Well, we have the first state of consciousness that is only real when you are awake. And the second state of consciousness is the dream state. The dream state states very clearly that it's real while you are experiencing it. You are in the astral plane. Now, to give a longer teaching about the dream state is not what I want to do tonight, but I do want to get into the reality, unreality of these 3 states of consciousness. You enter a different world. You enter a different state of consciousness in the astral plane known as the dream state. And you experience it. Sometimes you go, boy, that is more real than this. And at that moment, it is. Then if you continue to sleep, you may fall into what we call deep sleep. Raji calls it sleeping like a log. You're dead to the world. It happened to me today. I was taking a nap before I came over, and the phone rang, and I woke up, and I wasn't quite sure where I was, what day it was. This third-dimensional world can't be reformed yet. And more I talk to people who have the experience and willing to talk about it, and when they come out of that deep sleep, that sleeping like a log, and especially if it happens suddenly, there's a big space, relatively big space, from the time that they go from the deep sleep to this world forming. But what do you mean it forms? Now what I'm saying is, when you are awake, it's real, and then it goes. And you go into the dream state, and that's the real state until it goes. And then you go into the deep sleep, or sleeping like a log, and you don't know anything. You don't know, when you're in the deep sleep, or even dreaming, this world goes, you have no house, you have no car, you have no money, you have no problems, you have no this, you have no that. It's only real when you experience it. Now this is what's extremely interesting to me. You can take this as a concept, you can even experiment with it. You're awake, and you go into dream, and you go into deep sleep. But quantum physics now will speak very clearly on the very same subject, maybe using different words. As I spoke about a week or two ago, who can remember when, they talk about the collapse of the wave. Everything is a particle, it's a potential. Until you put your attention to it, then the wave collapses, it comes into reality. But it wasn't real to begin with. So the wave collapses when you are aware, when you are awake in this world. But it comes from, not means you go, comes and goes, comes and goes. You go in the dream state, this world disappears. It's an illusion because anything that is not, well, what is real? That which never changes. And if your waking state changes, and it must because you sleep and then you sleep deep, this world is an illusion. When you're dreaming, this world disappears. Now, when you dream, the dream world is real. But what happens when you're awake? That disappears. What happens when you're dreaming and you're in deep sleep and experiencing nothing? That disappears. And then you go into deep sleep and the dream state disappears and the waking state disappears. If it can disappear, there's no reality to it. Only real when you're experiencing it. Well, here's the situation. When you are awake, there is something that is observing you. That is something is the silent witness. There is something that we call consciousness, awareness, that is observing you while you're awake. Something knows that you're awake. Same thing when you're dreaming. When you're dreaming, this world disappears, you're not in deep sleep, but something is aware, something knows, something is witnessing, aware that you are dreaming. When it withdraws back, then you go into deep sleep, something is aware, something is watching you, something is witnessing you while you are in deep sleep. That very thing that is observing you while you're awake, while you're dreaming, while you're in deep sleep, we call consciousness or awareness. That has no beginning, has no middle, has no end, has no attributes. It just is. It just is. Now, if the waking state comes and goes, and the dream state comes and goes, and the deep sleep, sleeping like a log comes and goes, they can't be real. They are what we call projections of the self, projections of consciousness, projections of awareness. And they come and go, and they come and go. Every teacher that I'm aware of who talks on this says that anything that comes and goes has no ultimate reality to it. When we are in the waking state and we see things that bother us, we have to say, is this real? Or are these things come and go? If they come and go, we sometimes put, I believe, too much of our attention, too much of our awareness, too much of our time and our effort into things that ultimately aren't real. Well, what makes them real? I said, when you put your attention to them, then you create that reality, and you start believing that this is ultimate reality, and you'll drive yourself crazy. And I'm not interested in anybody here driving yourself crazy. I don't want to see that. This is why the teaching of the Karma Yogi is so important. Because when you understand these things have a short-term reality to them, they're not ultimately real. They rise up, and we deal with them, right? We deal with them, and then we kind of let them go. We say, okay, fine, because eventually they disappear. They go away. Now, this is a very, very important teaching. The three states of consciousness, the waking state, the dream state, and the sleeping like a log state are projections of the self. Now, once you realize the self, the true you, the true I am, the true knowledge of the self, then you can see these things as the witness. You step back from them and you see, oh, look at this. Kenny Hernandez, Kenny's talking now. Kenny's looking, oh, this is happening to Kenny Hernandez. This isn't happening to the true Ken, who Ken really is. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're kind of dovetailing with the question a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now, if he or you are able to step back and be that witness, because that's what you are that witness, you step back and you go, oh, this is that's what happened to me. So you heard me say it when I was in the hospital just over a year ago. And I asked the doctor, I said, is this something that could kill me? And he didn't say no. He didn't say no. I said, maybe I'm sick. Maybe I'm not long for this world. And then I realized, well, that's Don Zanghi who's sick. The self can watch Don Zanghi, oh, that poor guy. Well, his body might fade away. They might burn his body at the cremation thing. Well, who cares? Because the self who's saying that is watching something that's gonna, anybody here not gonna die physically? It's gonna happen. But the way the body dies and comes and goes, our so-called problems come and go, our so-called high points come and go, the good and the bad, they're all relative anyway. So now you live in this life knowing that the waking state comes and goes. Comes and goes. One day you feel good, the next day you feel bad. Well, which one is it? They come and go, so who cares? You know, you go into the dream state. Whoa, I can make your dreams come true. You can make it, you someone, you better hope not. I had a dream a while back, so it was slitting my throat. Don't make that dream come true. You say, well, it's just a dream. Don't you tell that to little kids who have